Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute honor to have you here in our today's video. Okay, so today I'm going to be speaking about one of the key roots of pain and suffering that so many of us go through and so many of us experience on a consistent basis. Yet at the same time, we can literally be so confused about what's causing it, why is it happening, and unfortunately for a lot of people, they end up moving into a victim-based identity and they sort of fragment themselves away from their authenticity just to survive this core root of suffering. But when you have a proper education and you understand what's really going on, it can absolutely support you in better knowing yourself and making decisions that are going to help you re-regulate your nervous system and experience a life of real fulfillment. So if this is something that you're interested in, this is the video for you. Okay, so what is the core root of suffering in our today's time? Of course, it goes to trauma. It connects to trauma. That's a given. But it's resistance. Resistance is one of the core reasons why so many of us are struggling, are going through unnecessary pain, are suffering in our own individual types of ways. It's resistance. Now, what exactly is it about resistance that is causing there to be pain and causing there to be suffering? Well, here, let me first start with explaining this. When it comes to having a regulated nervous system, and when you're being who you actually are, when you feel safe enough in your body to be who you are authentically, you live in a way where there is more synchronization, there's more harmony, there's more flow. And basically what this means is that you trust yourself. You trust all the different emotions that are in your body. You trust the different sensations that also are manifesting in your body. You're trusting your intuition and you're trusting your instincts. So when it comes to letting something go, you trust that. When it comes to stepping into the unknown, even though it feels uncomfortable, you trust that. When it comes to feeling really good and being happy and satisfied with where you are in the present moment because of who you are, just naturally, you trust that and you allow it in. Okay? So this is what it's like to be who you really are. And this is what it feels like and what it looks like to be your authentic self. And every single one of you listening to this now has this existing somewhere inside of you. There's not one of you that does not have access to this state of being. But very commonly, we can forget this connection, and then we can fragment away from our authenticity, and then we can start wiring into our nervous system a false identity. And the false identity isn't evil. It's not inherently bad. It's just a survivalistic identity that's trying to protect you in some way. So in other words, there's a reason why you've fragmented. And it's just trying to protect you. But even though it's trying to protect you, it's not who you really are. And it's, in some ways, it is damaging to your authentic self. It's neglecting to your inner child. So as I was saying, living in that synchronization, in that harmony, in that trust, and in that authentic self, that's what it looks like to live. That's what every single one of us on a deeper level, whether we're conscious of it or not, we're all trying to get to that point. We're basically all trying to remember that this is our birthright and this is what it means to actually be embodied and to create the life we want to live. Every single one of us is working towards this remembrance. Now, some of us are farther than others, whereas some of us are actively already embodied right now. But it's a journey and it's a process. And oftentimes in that journey of becoming more self-embodied, give me 1 second, my cat wants to come in. Come on, little one. So as I was saying, in that journey of being, in that journey of remembering self-embodiment, we oftentimes have to go through conflict, or we have to go through some form of tension, some sort of pressure. We could even refer to it as some sort of an adversary. Contrast between positive and negative. So there's many of us that are experiencing that negative adversary or that negative contrast that is not meant to hurt us. It's not meant to, once again, be evil or be a bad thing. It's just meant to help us realize more of what we don't want so we can make a more grounded decision towards self-embodiment, towards authenticity. Now, with all of that being said, that was the first layer of the foundation that we want to look at. Now, the second layer is once you start really remembering who you are and what it means to be you in the present moment, you're going to recognize that it requires vulnerability. It requires a sensitivity to your emotions and your sensations and your inner child. Now, this is one of the primary reasons why so many people struggle with being who they actually are. It's because they have childhood trauma that makes them feel like their inner child is not good enough. And the way that that reflects in a person's nervous system and the way that it reflects in regards to the relationship they have with themselves is they have this undertone of shame. This undertone of something's inherently broken about me, something is inherently wrong, something is inherently bad, so therefore I can't accept this and I definitely cannot trust this. And with that undertone of shame that a lot of people have, it drives separation from the authentic self. It drives fragmentation in the nervous system, fragmentation in the psyche, and that fragmentation oftentimes shows up as identities, different identities that we create for ourselves that once again are protective adaptations, but they're not who we truly are. So with me mentioning all of this, as I'm saying here, there is a level of education and acceptance that a person needs to have to trust themselves, to literally trust themselves to feel, to be present, and to recognize and honor the inner child within. It requires trust, acceptance, and education. Education like exactly what I'm sharing with you now. And that's one of the main reasons why most people are not able I don't know if that's what I want to say, not able. They're choosing not to be themselves because of the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of feeling emotions, oftentimes uncomfortable emotions like fear, sadness, anger, shame, feelings of abandonment, feelings of betrayal. So it is the resistance to these feelings, to the inner child, and to the authentic self that causes the pain and suffering in a person's life. And the craziest thing about it is that every single one of us at our birthright is destined not only for greatness, but for a life that is completely satisfying and fulfilling at a core level. Whatever that means for you individually and specifically, and that can look different for every person. But it's so wild to me how so many of us forget this and we lose touch of this. And essentially what we then do as a protective response is we get in our own way and we resist ourself. Now you might wonder, why is a person resisting themselves if their birthright is to live a life that is fulfilling? Well, you have to also look at the fact that the trauma that a person goes through, that trauma gets stored in the body. It emotionally gets held in the nervous system. And that's a lot of heavy, repressed, negative energy that in order to be resolved has to be felt through and then released naturally just by feeling. And it has to be felt through acceptance. It can't be felt with resistance. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but that's not really going to allow it to process. You have to feel it with acceptance. So because a lot of people don't understand this and they don't know this, they don't want to feel those feelings. So feeling those feelings to a person who doesn't understand the importance of doing it, that's like death. It's literally like death. People will believe and think that if I go there, then that means I'm going to die. Everyone's going to betray me. Everyone's going to abandon me. I'm not going to be able to control myself. I'm not going to be able to make money, put food on the plate. I'm not going to be able to do any of these things. And people literally think it's death. But the interesting thing is, yes, maybe in one way of understanding it, it is a death, but it's not the type of death that you may think it is. It could simply be the death of the identity that you've created to survive the emotions of that trauma. So in one way of looking at it, the death is real, but it's the death of the identity that you've created to survive it. So if that part of you or that identity goes through a phase of deep surrender and deep letting go, then the question is, what's underneath of it? What is the true self? What is the authentic self that's just underneath the surface? And can you trust that? Can you embody that? Can you practice that? Can you give yourself patience and consistency to see how your authentic self operates and what it feels, what it believes, what it wants to do in regards to taking actions, following your intuition, trusting your instincts, honoring impulses, having boundaries? So the resistance that so many of us are experiencing, once again, is the resistance of feelings that are in the body from early childhood trauma most of the times. And because we're resisting those emotions, and those feelings, it's supporting us to fragment away from the authentic self. So even if we did a little bit of a practice right now, and I said, I want you to resist what you're feeling right now. Try to stop feeling anything that you're feeling. So maybe we'll start here. Let's first start with just checking in with the body. See if you can go inwards and notice if you're feeling anything. Are there any emotions that kind of stand out to you right now? And see if you can recognize that, and then where are those feelings manifesting? Okay, now that you have that feeling, and you generally know where it's showing up for you, I want you to do your best to stop feeling it, resist it. Don't feel it. Whatever you do, do not feel that feeling. Fight it as best as you can. Okay, so what you might have noticed is that it takes a lot of energy to resist feeling. It takes a lot of effort, time, exertion to not feel what you're simply feeling. Now imagine there are parts of you that are resisting certain feelings unconsciously. So what we just did in this practice is we did it consciously. Now, what does it mean when you have an unconscious part of you that's resisting a certain feeling in your body? It means you're still exerting the same amount of effort, time, and energy to not feel, but you're just not conscious that you're doing it. So then what does that lead a person to? Feeling exhausted, burning out, being drained. So obviously, the more conscious we become of our unconscious and we understand the different parts of us that are oftentimes afraid to feel and afraid to be present, that's when we get to show them it's okay. It's okay to release. It's okay to let go. You can trust me. I know it might take time to build that relationship, but we can do this. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to find that whatever that same feeling that came up for you, the place that it showed up, and I want you to simply accept it, allow it. Okay, so now that you're just allowing that feeling and you're accepting it, you might notice that yes, it might be an uncomfortable feeling, but at the same time, there's a level of fulfillment or a deeper sense of satisfaction when you're in acceptance. So even though it could be a negative emotion that does not feel good, when you accept it and you allow it, it literally, there is a sense of satisfaction and a sense of wholeness that comes with that. And what you would also notice is there's a lot less energy that's needing to be exerted, needing to be spent, because you're not fighting it. You're not pushing it away. You're just letting it be. Matter of fact, this actually gives you energy the more you practice it and the more you accept it. You actually get energy from your emotions, which makes a lot of sense because emotions are energy in motion. So whether they're positive or negative emotions, when you have acceptance for them and you allow them to naturally flow, that gives you energy because it's energy in motion. And now they don't have to be blocked. They don't have to be suppressed. They don't have to be frozen because you're resisting them and you're fighting them. So in truth, to create a life that is more aligned to who you really are and to be a lot more fulfilled in your everyday experience. It requires you to release the resistance that you have in the areas that you have capacity to release. Now, as humans, it's natural that there's going to be certain things that we resist. Once again, whether we're conscious of it or unconscious of it, there's always going to be deeper layers. But for so many of us, we have so many layers of resistance that we can't even experience a glimpse of a life that is meaningful to us. A lot of us are completely miserable, and we feel like life doesn't have much to offer, and that it's just not a fun place to live. But remember what I'm saying. In truth, it's every single one of our birthrights to be able to live a life that is very fulfilling, very joyful, and very exciting. And we all have this capability if we just get out of our own way and let it naturally happen. But that requires you to work on those layers of resistance. What are your primary layers where you're currently in resistance to feeling what you're feeling right now in this present moment? And when you can start to cultivate more of a lifestyle and a foundation in your daily life that supports you feeling, being present, and accepting, this is going to slowly move you into a place where you're going to make decisions that very incrementally show that you're loving yourself, you're honoring yourself, and that you are worthy. It's a natural thing that will happen when you're letting yourself feel and be present and you're honoring that emotional processing. It will encourage you to slowly and surely make more and more decisions that are self-loving, self-honoring, and will essentially communicate to your nervous system that you are worthy. You're worthy for love. You're worthy for connection. You're worthy for success. You're worthy for a life that is truly meaningful and fulfilling. This is naturally what happens because when the nervous system is regulating, it's moving into a higher resonant frequency. And with a higher resonant frequency, there's a lot more of a positive energy, a positive momentum that comes with it. So this is why I'm saying it's natural that we start doing things, thinking things, believing things, connecting with people that further reiterate that self-love, that sense of interconnectedness, that sense of authenticity. And it slowly improves and it gets better and better and better. And it doesn't mean that your life is now void of trauma or it's void of negative energy. This is always going to be a valuable part of life, but it's just that your relationship to it will have completely changed. And it will be grounded in acceptance and understanding. So that means when something traumatic happens or when something negative gets triggered, you're not running from it. You're immediately curious about it, and then you get to work with it and be present with it and feel it. Where is this coming from? Why is this here? How can I move into a deeper state of self-trust and self-love by being with this? And every time you honor it in that way, and then eventually when it releases, you open up another layer of your authenticity or another layer of knowing yourself and loving yourself. And it just gets better and better and better. But it takes time. And it's not necessarily easy to get into this momentum. But that's why you have to have education and a foundation to understand what it's going to take if you really want to change your life in the way that is truly going to be the most fulfilling for you. And it's 100% possible. So the root of all suffering is our own resistance to who we really are through not wanting to feel what's there in the present moment. Okay. So with that being said, if you're looking for a group of people that are like-minded, that are doing this deeper work, first link below. You can request to join. I'd be honored to have you there. Second link is where you can book one-on-one calls or mentorships. I would also be honored to support you in any way that I can if you feel like that's right for you. And then the third link, this is the Patreon. I have an entire trauma course from start to finish of everything you need to know to work through early childhood trauma and also understand how the different parts of you work inside of your psyche, between your protector parts and the more exiled parts that are carrying onto burdens. And then I also show you and give you the step-by-step process of how to regulate your nervous system. So all of that is third link below. And then tier number 3 of the Patreon. This is a nervous system healing ritual that is happening this month on the 29th. It is designed to help you regulate your nervous system by releasing trapped energy in your body to bring it up to the surface so that you can start processing it. It is an extremely transformative process that roughly about 180 people, including myself, are participating in every single month. But you have to be committed to yourself to go through this in a way that's meaningful. This is a real energetic catalyst. This is not a joke. It's not a quick fix. It's not a hack. This is a real catalyst that can cause a real shift in your life, but you need to be ready to work with whatever comes up. And if that's something you're interested in, I'd be honored to do this with you. Third link below, tier number 3. Now's the time to sign up. We'll leave it there. All right, with that being said, I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Later.